Hi, I'm going to talk a bit today about my work. So, today I want to talk about colour in what I do. Somebody asked me about why I use the colours that I do, and I've talked before about how they represent different characters and what they mean, but just in case you haven't heard me talk about colour before. So, Pip has yellow hair and usually wears yellow shoes and a patterned shirt. This is partly because he's based on the whole thing is based on something that I wrote that was based on characters in an anime, and their colours. His colour was yellow, the character that I based him on. So I kept the yellow. It also means that every time you see the yellow, you know it's Pip. It's partly for cohesion and partly because he's a kind of sunny character as well. So the whole thing kind of fitted in. Then Matt has blue eyes and usually wears some kind of blue. I chose blue because I wanted two primary colours, and the other one would have been red, and I didn't like the idea of Matt being red. It's a kind of angry colour, and Matt's quite gentle, so I thought, right, I'll do blue and yellow. And that also means that anytime there's anything to do with Pip and Matt getting closer, I try and involve green, because that's yellow and blue mixed together, and green is also a colour of growth, and they sit outside a lot near a willow tree. So that means that they can be green in the willow tree. So I've talked about this aspect of the colour before. What I haven't really talked about is the limited palette of what I draw. I've always drawn with a limited colour palette and a lot of primary colours. When I was doing my A-levels, I was really obsessed with pop art, and I was really interested in screen printing. And I didn't really put two and two together that the way I draw now is related somehow to that until someone who was editing my book gave me some ideas of ways to colour that might emulate screen printing. And I don't know if they'd seen something in what I was doing that showed perhaps that I was trying to emulate screen printing. Anyway, it made me think, yeah, that is why I do what I do. In screen printing at school, you'd put down the colour first, and then you'd put the black lines on top of it. And that is kind of how I draw. Well, although I draw the black lines and then I put the colour underneath. So it was interesting to hear that from somebody. And it made me think about pop art and why I like that style and the comic book style. And I also like the limited colour palettes of Korean webcomics. They usually have one or two colours. Well, not all of them. I don't want to say they all do, but there's two particular artists I'm thinking about that have very limited colour palettes. And I do really enjoy reading those. I don't know if it means that... it definitely started as a way to be easier. I didn't want to do full colour pages for time, really. The story is as important as the art to me. So sometimes I read comics and I'm like, oh, this art style's lovely, but this story's a bit boring. And I thought, I don't really want to make one of those. I want to make one where people are like, yeah, the story's really interesting, and yeah, the art's okay. Like, which sounds like I'm damning myself with faint praise, but I'm not trying to do that. It's just, for me, the art is kind of secondary. It's more about the story for me. So that's basically where the limited thing comes in. I was talking with my husband about a piece of artwork I did for an exam, and it was people wearing patterned clothes, but their faces were completely black and white. And as I was talking about it, I was like, oh, I still do that. So yeah, it was quite interesting to think about where the colour in my work comes from, and why it's limited. And I hadn't really thought about it before. So yes, thank you, Ellie, for making me think about why my colour is as it is. And thank you, Emma, for talking to me about different methods for, screen printing emulation in digital artwork. And yeah, if there's anything you'd like to know about the comic, you leave me a message somewhere. I don't know where I'm going to put this yet, but I'm quite happy to talk. Well, I'm more than happy to talk about the comic, to be honest. And I like when people get involved. I like when people give me ideas. I like when I get feedback about what they're enjoying, what they're not enjoying. I don't like that so much, but I like to hear about what they're enjoying. One of my favourite reactions I had on Tapas was when we met Pip's mum, and everyone said how nice she was, and that made me feel really good because she's based on my mum. Well, my mum and my dad, really. She's like an amalgamation of the two. Pip only has a mum. We haven't discussed where his dad is yet, but he only has a mum. So, yeah. Any other questions? Anything you'd like to know? And if no one asks anything, I'm still going to come and talk to you about Pip and Matt. Probably next week. It's good practice. Okay, thank you.